there, it's Miss Annette from the Monrovia Public Library. Have you ever walked around the city and seen any of these beautifully painted bear statues? For the city of Monrovia's 125th birthday, several businesses and organizations bought and customized a bear in honor of a very famous resident. I'm going to tell you the story of a bear named Samson, who was a frequent visitor in this small town of Monrovia in California during the summer of 1994. The 400-pound cinnamon-colored bear became known as the hot tub bear because he loved jacuzzis and to swim in neighborhood pools. This story isn't just about a bear. It is a story about a community that rallied together when help was needed most. I hope you enjoyed this true story about Samson the Hot Tub Bear, written by Wendy Takuda, illustrated by Lachlan Millis. Every evening in the late summer, just as the stars began to appear in the sky, Samson the bear lumbered down out of the quiet hills to look for dinner. Samson knew exactly where to find his favorite foods. Wonderful foods like avocados, dates, and figs. And then there was the garbage. Samson loved garbage. One evening, Samson discovered a swimming pool where he could take a little dip and cool off. Next to the pool was a hot tub. Every night, Samson soaked in the warm, steamy water and relaxed. Afterward, he would pad over to the lawn and roll on his back. He'd scratch his stomach with his huge paw and gaze out at the twinkling lights of the city. Sometimes, as Samson walked across the patio, he saw a man and a woman in the window. But people didn't scare Samson. They didn't bother him, and he didn't bother them. Connie and Gary Potter were terrified the first time they saw the old bear through the window, but soon they began to look forward to his nightly visits. Samson never made a sound as he approached through the bushes. Whenever the Potters heard a big splash, they would hurry to the window. Their hearts pounding, they videotaped the huge bear lounging in their pool and jacuzzi, as if he were on holiday. One night, Samson ate some garbage that made him very sick. The Potters watched and worried as Samson rolled on their lawn in pain. They called the Fish and Game wardens for help. They would know what to do. Well, the game wardens knew all about the old bear. They'd been hearing complaints for months about a cinnamon bear that had ruined fruit trees, knocked down fences, spilled garbage, and scared people half to death by peering in their windows. They worried that someone might get hurt. Samson's stomach got better on its own, but his problems were just beginning. Now that the wardens knew his favorite hangout, they put out a big trap, baited with food. Within a few days, Samson was caught. Right away, the wardens saw that he was an old bear. He had hardly any teeth left. What could they do with him? If they moved him further into the mountains, he would just come back. No zoos wanted him because they all had plenty of black bears. So, Samson would have to be put to sleep. That's a polite way of saying that he'd have to be killed, and it would happen quickly, the very next day. The Potters were horrified. If there was a way to save Samson's life, they would have to move fast. They rushed the videos of Samson lounging in their hot tub to television news reporters. Maybe, just maybe, someone somewhere could help. All this time, old Samson sat inside the dark trap, cold, frightened, and alone. The clock was ticking away. That very night, at 6 p.m., Samson would be put to sleep. Just hours before Samson was to die, pictures of him relaxing in the hot tub were shown on television news. Immediately, the phones started ringing.
You can't kill Sam. Save Samson.
We can't let this happen.
He's just an old bear.
Wasn't there some way to save the bear? People wanted to know.
He's just being a bear,
Someone said.
And don't forget, the bears were here before we were.
Finally, all those voices reached the one person who could save Samson, the governor of the state of California.
The governor's office?
His phones rang and letters poured out of his
I'll
fax
give the governor
machine.
your message.
Everyone seemed to love the old bear, the governor thought. Surely a home could be found for Samson somewhere. The governor made a decision.
Save the bear.
He said. Samson was saved. But he still had no place to live. The old bear was loaded onto a truck and driven for hours to a place outside of Sacramento. Until he had a home of his own, he would live in a cement pen enclosed by a chain-link fence. Samson hid inside his den, frightened by the sounds of the reporters and cameras outside. For 3 days, he wouldn't come out. Finally, his caretaker lured him out with a trail of M&Ms. Samson gobbled them up hungrily and came outside into the light. From that day on, he adjusted quickly to life in captivity. Food was always the main thing on his mind, and he loved water. Old Samson would climb right into his big tub of drinking water to cool off. He was so big that when he squeezed in, almost all of the water spilled out onto the floor. His handlers would hear a great splash and laugh.
Samson is in the trough again.
Many months passed. Finally, a tiny zoo in Southern California volunteered to give Samson a permanent home. The zoo took a lot of wild animals no one else wanted, including owls, raccoons, and a bobcat. It volunteered to build a new enclosure just for the hot tub bear. Samson would be the biggest animal in the zoo. No question about it, he would be the star. There was one problem, though. The little zoo had no money to build the bear's enclosure, so Samson's friends came to the rescue. Connie and Gary sold postcards and posters with Samson's picture. Children collected money. A concrete company donated cement. The zoo director himself designed the enclosure and spent hours digging and painting. People who saw Samson on TV came to help. And one company even donated a pool and waterfall for the hot tub bear. One day, after months in his tiny cell, old Samson followed a trail of food right into a trailer. There was more food inside, so he settled in quietly, and off he went for another long ride. When the truck finally stopped, Samson was put into a small cage to spend the night. The next morning, the steel door on the cage lifted, and the old bear ran outside. There was grass and trees and fresh air, and his own pool with a waterfall. Immediately, he went for a swim. Samson was in his new home at last. More than 1,000 people were there to welcome him, including his old friends, the Potters. Children sang a song written just for him. News cameras were everywhere. Even the governor came.
Hey, Samson!
Love is a very powerful thing, and nothing proves that more than the story of the old bear named Samson.